What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner, and joining me from FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee, it's our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, we're here for our Three Things post-game podcast after Carolina's 84-76 win over Memphis in the Hoops for St. Jude Classic, a preseason exhibition game for the Tar Heels. So not a win on the record books at least, but I think nonetheless a pretty good performance for the Tar Heels. And we'll dive into that here in a second. But I see, AJ, I was going to run through the stats like I typically do. I don't really see a need to do that based on what we're going to talk about here, because we're gonna go into some of these stats based on what our three things are. So I'm going to skip that tonight, and we're going to go straight into the first topic. And I think every Carolina fan sitting here listening to this probably knows exactly what we're going to talk about, and that's Seth Trimble, man. Fantastic performance from Seth Trimble, 33 points on the night, 11 for 17 from the field, 3 for 5 from the field goal, past the three-point line, and 8 for 8 from the free throw line. So, I mean, AJ, I tweeted it out, but I didn't have that kind of performance necessarily from Seth. And again, pump the brakes a little bit, preseason game, no need, you can't get carried away with it. But I didn't have that type and that level of performance from Seth Trimble in my crystal ball going into today. But I mean, it was a fun watch at times from him, and I think there was a few times where he hit threes too, and every time the three went in, you're kind of like, man, if he adds that to his game, then he just goes up a whole nother level. So I thought he was absolutely fantastic tonight, and in RJ Davis's absence, man, I mean, could you ask for a better performance from the guy stepping in for the ACC Player of the Year tonight? I'm not sure you could have.
Remember 2 years ago, I will never forget a sequence at Notre Dame when they had that horrible first half against Notre Dame, and the players on that team said if Hubert was ever going to cuss, it was at halftime that night in South Bend. And there was a stretch where Trimble was on the floor, and he's playing in the wing. And I remember putting in our game thread, just like, if Seth Trimble's going to be in the game, you don't want him in a position where he's supposed to be productive with the ball, because no one's going to honor him. And Notre Dame didn't defend him. Trimble will get the ball beyond the three-point line, and Notre Dame would just sit back. And Seth wasn't going to shoot. I think he did one time. He shot an air ball. And I was like, he should just be at the point, because that way they have to honor him and get RJ or Caleb off the ball so they can have to maybe create a shot for those guys. That was 2 years ago, not even quite 2 years ago. Now he is a completely different player, and the evolution of his confidence has been in concert with his game and what he's done. And I noticed this from the video from the blue-white game, and people generally way overreact to stuff like that. I look for more minutia specifics, and I saw the crossover dribble, the very sharp, decisive crossover in the blue-white game when I watched the video, because I was doing football post-game. And it showed me exactly what he said. He told me in Charlotte that he had really improved his ball handling. And he needs to be able to make things happen from all spots of the floor with the handle. So we saw that tonight. Another thing is, if you remember back in his freshman year, he would, and even last year a lot, he would leave his feet in the lane and have no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
His body control was breathtaking tonight. So you've got the crossover and just the handle in general, and the ability to have the ball and body go the way they're supposed to in sync, instead of body faster than ball or ball faster than body, which you see from young players. Tonight it was fully in sync. So you had that led him into the lane, and then his body control kind of took over and got him a lot of good looks. And on top of that, I saw fingertips from him tonight that I haven't seen. Now, I thought he had pretty decent fingertips before. I know I'm getting really deep in the weeds here on this, but it's important to note. Tonight, the ball would leave his hand, and it's almost like there was a pull at the bottom of that, trying to get the ball to go in. And that's a sign of a guy who has worked his derriere off at this sport. And when he made the decision last spring that this is where he wanted to be and he was going to finish this thing out in North Carolina, he didn't do so saying, hey, I'm just going to be a 12-minute guy. He wants to play for a long time and earn money playing this sport. And what you saw tonight was a guy who has all the trimmings of someone capable of doing that. And he did it against a very athletic team, a team that guarded him with some length. There were times when he was out there, and I was trying to figure out if he was the 3 or the 2, and I kind of like that with this Carolina team because I don't believe in the term positionless basketball, because if that was the case, Elliot Cadeau wouldn't bring the ball up the court every time, and Jalen Washington wouldn't be down the block. But I do like the interchangeable aspect of this team where a guy could be a 2, a 3, or even a 4 at times. You don't even know when you're watching them play because they're moving, they're sharing the ball, their heads are up and all that kind of stuff. Seth gives them that element of a world-class athlete. He's a world-class athlete. He's not a world-class basketball player. He's a world-class athlete. He is that sensational as a raw athlete. What he's done is he's added the skill to his game at a significant level higher than it was a year ago. And we're not going to get these games from Seth every time he takes the floor. But I think that he can do that. And that RJ's sitting over there watching and cheering for him and talking to him when he would come to the bench. I think that that's huge because the confidence is so important at this level. I thought you saw Jalen Washington gain confidence tonight. I thought you saw Elliot Cadeau gain confidence tonight. And that's where the value in this game is. He didn't do this against Johnson C. Smith. He did this against Memphis in their building. And it was it wasn't a huge crowd. They didn't sell as many tickets as I thought that they would, but it was still a road environment. And look, both teams played to win, and the people in attendance wanted an outcome that they were rooting for. It felt like a January game to me. So I think that that's really fantastic for Seth. The three-pointers, we talked in the offseason, and we done the Seth Trimble stuff, that he really improved that shot last year. He shot 41%, didn't shoot a high volume, but he hit them through the course of the year. It wasn't like he had a couple of games where he was 4 for 4 and it sort of offset what his season was. He was just kind of consistently going 1 for 2, 1 for 3, 1 for 2, 1 for 3. And we saw the next level of that tonight. It was a pretty looking shot, and it was not pretty 2 years ago.
No, it definitely wasn't.
He knows it. So the Carolina fans should be highly encouraged by seeing this level of his game that he's grown into. This wasn't just a one-off in the sense that, he played really well, he took advantage of something. What you saw was an elevated game on every level tonight. And I think people saw aspects of that the other day as well. So I think he's a much better player. And obviously, North Carolina loves having him because there are very few dudes that are 6'3" around the country that can glide and get up the way he can. And it was impressive to watch. And it was nice to watch, too. He's a good kid.
Yeah, really good kid. Yeah.
When he got in the portal, he didn't want to. But he felt like he needed to see what was out there. He was trying to figure out what he wanted out of his career and where his basketball life could go, and if he could achieve that at North Carolina. And when he was out, he talked to Danny Green. And Danny said, look, man, you got to be patient. Danny didn't start until his senior year, and he just retired last week and had a hell of a career. Made $100-something million. Got, three
NBA titles, yeah.
3 NBA titles.
Not bad.
There's something to say about having your own pace and sticking to it.
Yeah. I mean, he was fantastic tonight. Now, even just looking at the box score, AJ, just to stay on him for a second. I mean, he 17 shots on the night. I know a lot of that had to do with him being the hot hand, but 6 more shots than anybody else on the roster. But behind Elliot Cadeau that played. I mean, in what world do we think kind of coming into this season, again, with RJ being out, so the circumstances are different. You definitely have to factor that in. But the fact that Seth Trimble not only leads him with 33 points, not only looked as good as he did tonight all over the court, hitting threes, taking guys to the basket. We already knew he was super athletic. We already knew he was an elite ball defender. And now, like you mentioned, you're seeing development in his game throughout. But the fact that he, is leading the way for the Tar Heels and taking 6 more shots than anybody on the roster. Again, I didn't necessarily have that in my crystal ball coming in tonight. I didn't necessarily expect that, but he was fantastic. I mean, can't harp on that enough. No, you're good.
Dying for water here. I haven't had anything to drink in like 2.5 hours. Now, this is not a career high because it's not a game.
Yeah, I did think about that earlier.
So what's wild is he attempted 5 more shots tonight than what is his career high scoring, which is 12 points. He did it 3 times.
That's a stat right there.
And if you think about the 17 shots, can you recall a bad shot?
Not really.
Highly contested ones, but with his hang time, he can deal with contested stuff. He's strong. He goes to the rim. It's pretty hard to impede that, and he's got that hang time. So I don't think there were any bad shots.
No, I don't think so either. He's going to be integral to what this team can do this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that, especially if he keeps playing it even remotely close to the level we saw him at tonight. And, coming off the bench as a six-man like a Danny Green. I mean, you talk about very, very, very few, if any, teams having a guy like that coming off the bench and not starting.
Or maybe he's the 3, RJ's the 2. Tyson had 9 rebounds tonight. I thought we'll talk about him in a minute, but I thought that he got more physical and sort of kind of lost himself more in the game as it went on. So perhaps he starts at the 4, and you got Jay Wash out there. It's conceivable Seth gets rewarded with a start, because I think that with the way Withers plays, he kind of more of a bench guy. He brings a lot of that electricity that you want for a guy coming off the bench. Trimble played tonight, and based on him being one of the representatives in Charlotte last week, tells me that Hubert has him in mind for an awful lot of minutes and perhaps a starting role all year. We'll see. We'll see when they play Elon.
Yeah, man, he keeps playing like that. You're gonna have to find ways to keep him on the court, starting or not. But let's move on a little bit. Second thing, Elliot Cadeau and Jalen Washington, talking about them. I mean, really good performances from them tonight. I think we saw, again, a guy like Trimble. We saw different glimpses of what these guys can be, particularly with Jalen Washington, because let's face it, AJ, we just haven't seen him a ton, especially with, how long Armando Bacot was in school and being kind of the main guy for the Tar Heels. But Jalen Washington, 17 points, 6 boards in only 25 minutes. Incredibly, an efficient performance from him, 6 for 7 from the floor. If he continues to give you that kind of clip every night, you're going to be very, very pleased with that. And then Elliot Cadeau, man, 11 and 13. Again, we're talking about evolution of Seth Trimble's game. We got to talk a little bit about the evolution of Cadeau's game in what we saw tonight. Again, preseason exhibition, you're not going to get too giddy, but based on what we witnessed tonight, I think you're going to be seeing a lot of games like that from Elliot Cadeau. I think that's the benchmark for him. I think he is a guy, and we all knew the intangibles coming in last year, and he had a really nice season last year. He had some games where he had big assist games, but I think this may become kind of the new norm for him. Double doubles for what he's going to be doing, kind of running the show for the Tar Heels, I think is a very realistic thing for him to have on a relatively consistent basis. So 11 points, 13 assists for him. Again, I really like what he brought to the team. He looked in control out there, and if he can continue to develop that shot, that we've seen, only 4 for 11, but 2 for 3 from behind the 3-point arc tonight. I think you got to like what you've seen from both of these guys in Jalen Washington and Cadeau tonight as well.
Yeah, let me start with Elliot. Again, I should have scrambled for some water. Found a faucet somewhere in a bathroom and cut my hand.
You need a deer park right now, man.
Unbelievable. So anyway, Mississippi River's not too far away.
That's true.
Tastes very good right now. Ellie, I'll start with him. His mother put out a tweet. She goes, "I don't care if it's an exhibition game. My son has a double-double tonight." And I embrace how excited she was over that, because it was a double-double, but it was a big boy double-double in the sense that he looks older, the facial hair, but he looks older. He's stronger. He got clobbered a few times early, got hit in the throat 3 minutes into the game, maybe got hit in the forehead a little bit later. He was on the floor a lot. They were running through some huge screens. At 42 was setting some massive screens. They were running Elliott in some of those. And last year he would show freshman body language about stuff like that. Sometimes I saw none of that tonight. I saw a guy who looked to me, and fortunately we got to sit, I was right behind the bench. And I got to see up close. We don't have the greatest angle anymore in the Dean Dome. A lot of places they moved the media far away. So this was very beneficial. He looked like an NBA player to me tonight. The way he was in control, the way he played with his head up. Now, he had a couple of terrible turnovers late. That one that he tried to pitch up the floor, and then he tried to force something in the half court on the very next possession. But he had 13 assists. He controlled the game. He found people. He had a beautiful skip pass over to Kay Tyson, I think, drained the 3 on that play, which was a fluid catch and shoot for him. So I thought that you saw a far more mature Elliot Cadeau, just in the mannerisms and everything. He didn't like a call. Instead of frowning at the ref, he said something to the ref. And that's just, again, we talk about evolution with Seth Trimble. There's evolution with Elliot. I thought his jumpers looked nice, looked nicer than they did a year ago. He played strong. Sometimes young point guards will turn a little bit to the defender when they're trying to run the offense. Elliot was straight up. on the defender, so he saw everything, and he didn't see everything because they're moving a lot more without the ball, and there are scoring options all over the place because they're going to be quicker in the half court and far quicker, obviously, in the open court. So I like that. I also thought he was better defensively. He was stronger on some of the drives, guarding the drives defensively. So those were all really, really positive signs. As far as Jay Wash goes, look, we talked about his efficiency last year, and kind of like what I said about Seth, where he just kind of would hit the threes throughout the course of the year. Jay Wash would go in, he'd play 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes. He'd have a 1-for-1, a 2-for-2, 3 rebounds, and nothing eye-popping, but there was a level of consistency that was there that was reason for optimism if you were thinking, okay, maybe this guy could step up. You and I talked a lot the last few months. I kept telling you I really thought he was going to be big time this year because he's incredibly skilled for a 6'10" guy. And what we saw tonight, the questions about the banging, he's got a damn chicken wing, dude. So he gets guys down, and the way he uses, not this, he's using this. Mm-hmm. He's able to get some separation. It's only going to get better. I thought he did a nice job at times getting on the block. He got some stuff blocked. He got some stuff pushed away a little bit, but I thought that he, especially going up against the kind of dudes he was going up against physically, I thought he did a nice job, and it's going to get better. His weak side defensive help is going to be an asset. Carolina hasn't had a dude that might be able to rotate defensively on the weak side and affect stuff when guys get beat since maybe Bryce Johnson. There's some similarities there. And the confidence that Hubert has in him, that 3 he hit on the inbound was drawn up.
Yeah, I know.
Hubert said that 3's going to you, and he can hit that shot. I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago about his 3 because he looked pretty good shooting them last year, and people are like, oh, I can't believe Jalen Washington's going to step out and shoot threes. They're thinking he's Armando, and he's not. And there was a joke in the press conference like, hey, you guys never – that's a new wrinkle because it wasn't like you were doing that with Armando last year. Mm-hmm. So when people get so uber fixated on the fact that this team is not as big as it has been in the past, and there was a stretch there when Jay Wash was on the bench and you had Lubin, Tyson, Jackson, Powell, and Cadeau out there, that was as small as it gets for North Carolina basketball. I don't ever recall a lineup that small on the floor. So you may see that sometimes, but there are other aspects of things that they can do that force bigger teams to have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Whenever Jalen stepped away, the bigs that were covering for Memphis were useless.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that more and more. So, and he can bang. So I really thought that was a very positive performance from him. His confidence is also soaring. We've got the evolution of confidence with Seth Trimble. We've got the evolution of confidence with Elliot Cadeau, and we've got the evolution of confidence with Jalen Washington. 3 guys whose games are at this moment in time, October 15th. Just kind of think, man, what might be the case February 15th, March 15th. Mm-hmm. There's a long way to go. And I believe that you will see consistent improvement from these guys because we've already seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, man. I thought what we saw from them tonight are 2 big positives heading into obviously regular season play starting not too long. So let's dive into 3 guys that are to the last thing, and then we'll kind of talk about what this team got out of this as well. But talk about 3 guys that are kind of working their way in and didn't have maybe the greatest nights. And again, that's fine. That's kind of what you expect from especially these guys, new faces in the program and 2 true freshmen. But Cade Tyson, Drake Powell, and Ian Jackson, not the greatest night shooting for him. Cade Tyson 3 for 10, Ian Jackson 0 for 4, Drake Powell 1 for 4. But they did, they played some good minutes tonight. And I think the experience there is what you want, particularly from Jackson and Powell. Now, Cade Tyson, I agree with what you said. You took the words right out of my mouth earlier where I thought he grew into the game a little bit. I thought he looked a little bit more comfortable with the physicality in the second half. We saw him make some nice plays. There was one particular play where he kind of took the ball baseline and finished through contact with a layup early in the second half, I believe. And that was like, okay, yeah, we haven't really seen that tonight, but that's what he can bring to this team. He's not just somebody who's going to sit on the outside and shoot threes. He likes to go down and bang, and I think he has the ability to do that. So these 3 guys in particular, and it's funny because before we even discussed the 3 things, I kind of compiled, I kind of looked at the fact, and this was kind of my takeaway from it is ultimately Carolina wins by 8 tonight. A lot of things they can clean up, particularly in the final 5-10 minutes of that game. I thought Carolina was really, really sloppy at times, allowed Memphis to come back in it. But the fact of the matter is that Carolina was still won by 8, with Cade Tyson going 3 for 10, Ian Jackson going 0 for 4. Jalen Withers, even throwing him in there, 2 for 7. Elliot Cadeau only 4 for 11. Yeah, and Drake. Yeah, exactly. And Drake Powell, like I mentioned, 1 for 4. Those guys just a combined 10 for 36. And not to mention, AJ, Carolina's out rebounded, not by much, but 41-40. I expect that thing, to be shifted as the season goes on. So a lot of positives you can take from that one, but again, it's a preseason game. You can't get carried away one way, and you shouldn't get carried away the other way. So I don't think there's any reason for people to be out there like, oh man, Kate Tyson, he's not ready to play at this level, or maybe Jackson and Powell aren't ready to contribute as much as we thought. I don't think you can look into it that much. And I think all 3 guys, despite maybe not being great, like I said, shooting the ball tonight, I think they all show glimpses of the type of players they can be for this team. So
I'm going to comment on what you said about the end when they got kind of sloppy, and I agree. It's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought there were 2 sequences tonight, 2 stretches in the game where they missed RJ. Where had they had RJ out there, it could have been completely different. I thought that stretch was one because they would have been a little bit more composed in dealing with that, and he would have been a guy that had the ball in his hands a lot, so maybe he's going to the free throw line at times instead of some other guys. The other time was early in the game when they were just trying to find themselves, and they missed their first 7 or 8 threes. And a team, I saw them getting tight as a team. I saw guys passing up wide open threes. Sometimes other dudes can miss, and you kind of feel like everybody's missing. So even guys that might have confidence don't put it up because they're not sure. It's like in baseball. Sometimes hitting is contagious. You could be the number 8 hitter in the lineup, and the 4 and 5 guys are hitting like crazy, and suddenly you're feeling it too. And I think sometimes perimeter shooting, which can be like that with young teams, and I thought that was a fairly young team out there. I think RJ would have affected that. Now, to the 3 guys that you brought up, I'm going to start with Cade. Cade absolutely grew into the game. I got a text message from someone whom I respect tremendously that was just destroying him, basically. And my response was, it's October 15th.
I love that.
And then he went back at me like, you don't trust my knowledge of the game. I'm like, it's October 15th.
That's fantastic. I love that. I love that.
A lot of people have talked about, can Cade consistently play against this level of competition? You want to know what is a rarely discussed element that he's dealing with is learning how to play with that kind of talent.
Yeah.
That takes time. And he's a guy that had a lot of stuff run for him at Belmont. It's not running. They're not running as much stuff for him at North Carolina. When you play with great players, you have to learn how to score and be productive when stuff isn't run for you. You have to become more reactionary. We talked about him losing himself in the game. He was better as the game went on because he started doing that more. The drive that you mentioned, excuse me, and I really just need water.
Give me some water.
I know, I'll do that. Anyway, Hubert had a water up here. I should have swiped it.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Swipe that from
that drive you mentioned, that was the next possession after he hit the 3 finally.
Yeah. I remember there being something back to back. Yeah,
and that was the most fluid release on the 3 out all night. This first 3-point attempt was blocked. His next one, I thought he should have maybe been fouled or something like that. Or at least it was close. It was challenged, and I did a drop that we ran today where I'm like, he's got length, he's got a nice release, he's not going to get shots blocked almost ever. And first one he attempts, he gets blocked, which is beautiful. I'm thinking, okay, someone's going to come after me on that one. But I thought that there was a lot of value in that because the last couple he took, he was wide open, he was unaffected. And that one that he hit was big, and you saw the confidence with the drive. So it is a process for him, playing against that kind of competition on a regular basis, perhaps playing the 4 some because he didn't play the 4 at Belmont much. He mostly played the 3. And also learning to play with guys that are, either NBA or fringe NBA players. That's an adjustment for him. And I thought there were a lot of solid things tonight. He got tougher as the game went on. Hubert got on the tee. I'm right behind the bench, Jacob. And Hubert just explode. I don't know how a guy can yell so much without ever cussing.
I know, it's unreal. It's a talent.
He even threw out a bejeebies after a mistake. And I had to quote him on that. And I'm thinking, how the hell do you spell bejeebies? I just go, okay, BGs and just add a B and whatever.
That's fantastic.
I mean, we were laughing, and some of the ushers were laughing like, he doesn't really cuss. No, he doesn't cuss.
Not at all.
But, man, he could tear a strip out of him, and he did with Cade a few times. And he did with the team when he said, we're not tough enough. He yelled, we're not tough enough. And it was a few moments later at 27-16 when that changed. And part of it, what changed is I thought Cade got a little bit more physical defensively. He got a little bit more physical on the glass, and he ended up with 9 rebounds. That's pretty good because that's a tough they were getting killed on the glass for a while, and they ended up catching them pretty much. And they did that because they got physical, and they did it because guys got more comfortable, and Cade was a big part of that. As far as the two freshmen, I asked Hubert after the game, because Hubert said early in his press conference, he said, boy, there are a ton of teaching points tonight. What a great opportunity for us. Well, a lot of those teaching points and learning points are going to be with Drake Powell and Ian Jackson. They look like freshmen.
Yeah.
They look like freshmen 100% tonight. There was one sequence when Ian drove to the basket and got fouled and hit the two free throws where it looked like he was reacting instead of thinking out there. And there was a couple of instances for Drake, especially on the defensive end. I think he had a block shot where it looked like he was losing himself. But at one point, he took a three in the corner in the second half, and Hubert exploded on him, and so did Brad Frederick, screaming about the clock. Why would you take that in the clock? So he doesn't have the green light yet. That's what that tells me. So these guys are working through it, man. Those two, as gifted as they are and as skilled as they are, they're also playing with ankle weights and arm weights and everything else because the heads are spinning a little bit. Ian even admitted a couple weeks ago when I was talking to him that, and I asked him about the adjustments, he said it's the mental adjustments. He said it's not the physical stuff. You can go out and play pickup and he's fine. It's the mental stuff when you get into a more structured situation that it was taking some time for him. So people who are making indictments on the two of them tonight, just wash it away. It's October 15th. And this was an amazing opportunity for them to go on the road, play at this level in a game with big-time players against big-time players in an atmosphere that was pretty good. It felt like a conference game in there tonight, and they got that out of their system before going to Fall Allen Fieldhouse in a few weeks. So the value for the two of them, and they did not play well, and Ian Jackson was minus 14 or minus 16 in the first half. That's brutal. It's not all his fault, but that's fine. It's almost better in some ways that they had that instead of they came out like a house on fire and were doing everything that they did before they got to North Carolina, because you want some things to be broken down that must be broken down in order to build them back up. And then one of the reasons why I love teams having games like this is because it gives you an opportunity to do real life everything, and it doesn't count. In the standings, but it counts as far as the education, and the team got a lot out of that, which is the last part about what this means. They just got a ton out of it. And by the way, they were up 15 at Memphis with 6:17 left with R.J. Davis in street clothes after not shooting well from three, after the two freshmen just looked like freshmen out there. Jalen Withers in foul trouble, Van Allen Lubin figuring his way out and all that stuff. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. No, I think I thought about it after the game, and the last thing I wanted to bring up is I think in a lot of ways it was the perfect kind of scenario for the Tar Heels, because I honestly think the absence of RJ Davis, you never want him to be hurt, but again, it was precautionary, him sitting him out. There was no need to play him. But Carolina going into that game against Memphis in a preseason game that doesn't count, but going into an environment, like you said, that again could have been better, but was still a true a road environment that they had to deal with. It looked, at least on TV, like a pretty decent crowd nonetheless. You're going in there, and you get up by 15, so that confidence is there. You have Seth Trimble hitting shots, showing glimpses of his game. We talked about Jalen Washington. We talked about Elliot Cadeau, and you're like, okay, you're seeing the pieces we expected to be a lot better. You're actually seeing glimpses of that early on in this game. And then Memphis comes back into it, and Carolina kind of has to fight it out a little bit. And not only that, like you mentioned about Hubert, the criticism there, you guys aren't playing tough enough. You talk about teachable moments within a game and a ton of positives to take out of it, because again, having RJ would be great tonight, but you know what you're getting out of RJ most, 99% of the time. So having to go in that environment in a first game like that with a lot of new guys playing their first ball at either in college or for the University of North Carolina without a guy like RJ Davis. I mean, I honestly think in hindsight, I'm not saying it's a blessing in disguise, but I think it's more of a positive that he wasn't playing tonight in Carolina, obviously, and that Carolina was still able to come out with a win,
Well, hindsight's 20/20 vision.
Yeah, of course.
And let's say they didn't play. Let's say Seth just is off and he misses those, and they end up losing the game by a couple of points. People are going to wonder, okay, well, if they had RJ, they would have won. But I think that had they had RJ, and he got a lot of the shots that Seth got, he got a lot of the shots that honestly, that Ian Jackson got.
Yeah.
And that Elliott got. And I don't think the team would have grown as much. So you're talking about a guy who was player of the year in the ACC last year, first team All-America. We know what he can do. Mm-hmm. And what happened is him not playing gave a lot of air to everybody else and air for their games to just sort of happen. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't have had that opportunity if RJ would have played 32 minutes tonight, because I think Elliott played 36. They went into this game to win. They played to win. And I think that was smart, because you've got to learn how to win. And this is a new group. So you got to learn how to win with this group. I thought that both teams, Memphis did the same thing. I talked to a guy before the game who covers Memphis. He said, look, they're approaching this like it is a late January, must-win type situation. Yeah. Both coaches coach like that. Hubert was working the refs 5 minutes in the game. I'm like, this is wild stuff. Yeah. He's working the refs big time. So they got a ton out of it, and they got more out of it because RJ didn't play. It was precautionary. So that tells me that if they would have played, UVA tonight in the middle of the conference season, RJ would have been out there fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no need to
play.
So
they knew this was a golden opportunity to grow without him. Now you add him back to the mix, and his other parts have sprouted up a little bit. That's to me, it's all positive. There's really no negatives about tonight at all. And the things that people are going to say, well, too many turnovers, rebounding wasn't great, they weren't tough at times. It's October 15th, guys. There is a whole hell of a lot of time for them to get all that stuff fixed.
Yeah, season hasn't even started yet, technically. So, no need to overreact on anything. And, again, the other way, too, a lot of positive things tonight. But I think with a game like this, you can't overreact either way. But, again, you can still take a lot of positives out of it tonight for North Carolina, getting the 84-76 win over Memphis in, obviously, Memphis, Tennessee, FedEx Forum. So, AJ, I'm going to let you go find some water, man. It's getting a little late over here, too. So it's
10:55 there, right?
10:59 on my computer, at least.
Okay, so it's an hour behind here, so that's good. Because
I forgot about
travel day. I still have some more steps to get too. So maybe I'll grab a bottle of water and just get my steps.
It might take you an hour to find a bottle of water based on what you're telling me.
And I didn't get a hotel here. I just flew in this afternoon. I have a 5 a.m. flight out. So
you're in and out, man.
The airport. I'm in and out. I'm going back to the airport. I did walk down Beale Street. I love Beale Street.
Sweet.
A lot of establishments there to imbibe and listen to some great music and fill your gullet with all kinds of good food. So I took a bunch of pictures and sent them to friends, and they're like, "Oh man, I want to be there with you." I'm like, "No, because I'm in and out."
Before we go, what's your opinion on Memphis, man? Is it a good city, fun city? What's your vibe on it?
Memphis there's some things about Memphis that are not great, but the things that I like about Memphis are off the charts. First of all, as touristy as it is, you got to go if you haven't been to Graceland, you got to go to Graceland.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'd be cool.
But my Uber ride from the airport took me. I went right by Sun City Studios, which is where Elvis recorded his first song. Nice. The Civil Rights Museum here. Because remember, MLK was assassinated here.
Yeah, but I would love to go to that.
He was staying at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, and he came out of his room, and that's where he was shot. Well, they turned the Lorraine Motel into the Civil Rights Museum.
I like that. That's smart.
You can go into an adjoining room where the wall's been knocked down, and you can see what MLK's room looked like.
Wow.
When he walked out. So it's the same stuff. They have a way of preserving like coffee or eggs or something like that where it stays intact. It's encased and has a certain kind of pressurized air in there. And then you can go across the street where the assassin was, but they have the Civil Rights Museum is amazing. They have the bus that Rosa Parks sat in there. Oh, you can sit in the seat she sat in. There's also, well, I've never been to the Peabody with the Ducks. People here kind of laugh at that and stuff, but Roy Williams sure liked that in 2017. So I figure if it's good enough for old Roy, then maybe I should try that sometime. But Beale Street's fantastic. BB King's, the music, the food.
Oh, yeah. I like some blues.
My Uber driver dropped me off at 2:30 Memphis time, and 4 places had live music going, man.
Wow. Just
on a Tuesday afternoon.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I ran into R.L. Bynum almost right away, and we were talking about it stuff. I said, R.L., this is my kind of town, man. This is my kind of street.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I cannot see R.L. Doing a whole lot with that, but I should take you out in the town sometime, R.L.
Yeah, of course he does, man. No, that's awesome. I had a guy
911 on speed dial. It's cool. If you haven't been here, come here. The Civil Rights Museum is worth it. Graceland is cool. Across the street from Graceland, they have a restaurant that makes only Elvis's food. You can have the fried peanut butter and banana sandwich, and it's worth it. If you like blues, I mean, this stuff's good. There was a guy playing Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I'm a big Stevie Ray Vaughan guy, and I just was like, wow. I mean, I had to cover a game.
Yeah, man. You were like, somebody stay here, man, and just watch this on TV.
Yeah, it's great. So there's just stuff about Memphis that's not great, but I've been recommending it to people for years.
Yeah, I would love to go, man. I love history, love blues music, so I think I could spend some time in Memphis.
Dude, you need to bring Carly here. Mm-hmm. I would do it for like 3 nights, 4 days, mm-hmm. 3 nights.
Yeah, that'd probably be plenty, wouldn't it? You don't need to go too long. No, I could get behind
it's that. It's not super expensive either.
I figured it probably wasn't. I've never been before, but I would absolutely love to. It's on the list.
I expect the city of Memphis to become a sponsor of our podcast. Yeah. And by the way, we are looking for sponsors.
Yeah.
Because, maybe I don't have to fly in and fly out right away. I could actually stay for a while.
Get you a little 5-star.
What I usually do? I had to fly in and fly out because this is an open date week, and I actually have to be a human later this week.
Yeah.
I have to reintroduce myself to my entire family, my daughter, let her know that dad's still around.
Yeah.
And my office door is not locked. It's really not.
You got responsibilities this weekend, man. Yeah. We'll enjoy the open week as much as we can. I'm sure we will.
Let's do this.
Well too.
I'm doing it again. I've been very benevolent lately. If someone has been to Memphis, I want you to rank. And I know Graceland can be cheesy to some people. I don't think it is, because when you're walking through there and you see that shaggy carpet and you think about the crazy stuff that Elvis used to do there, that right there is worth it. And all the records on the walls, it's worth it. So if you've been here and you've been to all 3, Beale Street, Civil Rights Museum, and Graceland, rank them.
I like that.
Tweet at us. You don't have to DM us. Just tweet at us.
I like that.
Facebook, on our site, on our free board, and we'll just randomly choose somebody that gets a 1-year subscription to THI for free.
I like that a lot, AJ. I really do. I'm looking forward to seeing those rankings. I'll have to put them in my notes for the eventual time when I do make the trip to Memphis. It's on the list. We'll get there at some point, man.
You got to get here.
Yeah, wish you could spend another night there, but again,
this is my 4th time here.
Oh, yeah, 4 times. Wow.
4th time here. The first time was a girl that I was engaged to in the 90s. She didn't become my wife. Yep. She and I flew out to California and drove back, and we called it our death trip because in LA we went by OJ's house, and this wasn't too long after OJ almost decapitated Nicole.
Yeah.
And we went by OJ's house, and they had the police tape everywhere, and we stopped, and there was this dark cop car that put a little light on and loudspeaker where it says, please move on.
Oh, wow.
No loitering. Then we went on the way back. We stopped in Dallas, first place we went, Grassy Knoll. And then we went to Graceland. So that was our trip.
That's a trip. I could do that. I'd do that tomorrow. That's the
other thing you and I talked about is the Texas School Book Depository.
Yeah. Oh, I'm big into that.
Standing there for hours. I sent you the pictures there a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, I'm big into that, man.
I've been there a few times, and it's awesome.
You might need to get a conspiracy podcast going on Tar Heel.
You need to get Carly to listen to this. She will feel a little bit swayed to say, okay, let's do Dallas and let's do Memphis.
I'm all about that, man. My dad's been to Dallas too, so, to the JFK area School Book Depository building. So it's awesome. I'm big into that. Like I said, I know you are too, because we've talked about it a lot off camera. Start a conspiracy podcast over here at THI.
Might as well.
You never know.
Get a sponsor for that one.
Yeah, but I wouldn't surprise me at the slightest.
If you want to sponsor us. You can become a part of our THI family.
Yeah, and you know why you should sponsor, because we go where the Tar Heels go, as you can see by AJ's backdrop right there. So,
is this basically turned into our basketball show? Because it looks like
pretty much. We have gone about 40 minutes, but I mean it's easy.
And for the people that are complaining, why don't you guys talk basketball? We already did.
Yeah, we spent 35 minutes.
We ended the 3 things. We're just talking about this for a while in addendum, because you never know what you're going to get with us.
Like the video.
Your work. I have to get something to drink, and I got to finish getting my steps.
You need some water.
1,252 consecutive days today. Eventually I'll be at 1,253 consecutive days with at least 10,000 steps. So I got to get it.
Like the video if you think AJ hits 10,000 steps tonight. before the clock strikes. He's got an extra hour, so he should be able to do it before the clock strikes midnight. I think that'll be pretty easy for him. So like the video below if you're excited about the win for Carolina tonight and you're optimistic going into the season. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another edition of our Three Things Postgame podcast series. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell too. And of course, keep it locked at TarHeelIllustrated.com. Links in the description below. You can sign up. Yeah, man. Free sub. You can sign up for just $8.33 a month as well. If you want to do that. And you can also shoot us a Venmo at Tar Heel Illustrated if you want to support what we do. So appreciate you guys watching as always. And yeah, guys, we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks.